Challengers was directed by Luca Guadagnino, and it stars Zendaya, Mike Faist, and Josh O'Connor, a great trio here. And this movie feels like a lot of things to me. This is a romance for sure. This is also, it's got tastes of a thriller in there, but it's also a sports drama. And a sports drama about tennis, no less. Like, I can only count, on one hand the number of tennis movies that are out there. And here we follow a pro tennis champion played by Mike Faist, who's won all the tournaments. He's won all the opens that are out there. Except for the US Open, it's always eluded him, so he kind of has a chip on his shoulder. And he plots a comeback with the help of his wife, played by Zendaya. Zendaya's character is a former tennis prodigy who retired after a premature injury. And I'm not going to spoil much, but they show the injury happen, and if you're squeamish, you will not like that scene. So even though Mike Faist's character named Art is on a downward spiral, Zendaya's character Tashi is encouraging him to get back out there on this comeback, and he signs up for a challenger tournament to get back on a winning streak, and he ends up in the finals against his former best friend and wife's former lover, played by Josh O'Connor. And I think the way Luca Guadagnino went about this and presenting this movie is very interesting. Because yes, it is centered around this final tennis match between two former best friends, and you definitely feel the grudge between them throughout the movie. But I'll tell you this much, this movie is told in a non-linear format. And as the movie was starting, I didn't know if I was gonna like it that much. But I feel like in order for the movie's tension to work, and with how the movie wanted to intensify over the 2 hours and 11 minutes that it had, non-linear was the only way it could have gone. And I absolutely love the analogy that the script makes between tennis and a relationship. Because even though you're opponents and you may want different things, you're still kind of working together in a sense to make this match exciting. I may be paraphrasing what the script was actually saying here, and I could be 100% dead wrong in how I interpreted it, but I thought this movie was super fascinating, and Challengers to me, even though I'm someone who doesn't give a rat's ass about tennis, this movie made me care. Even in recent years, there have been great Oscar-baiting movies like Battle of the Sexes, King Richard, which won Will Smith an Oscar a few years back, as well as universal infamy for his incident with Chris Rock. This movie honestly made you care about tennis. And how Luca Guadagnino is actually shooting the tennis sequences is just so exciting. I absolutely love this cinematography. You get loads of POV shots, not just from what the characters are looking at, but you actually get to play the part of the tennis ball in these situations, which is really cool. And even though the tennis sequences are great, the crux of this movie is the relationships between our characters. You get the sports drama stuff, but this is a romance movie, I feel like, through and through. And what is more intense in a romantic thriller than a love triangle? And I feel like every little bit of the love triangle and the arc that each character goes through, they're not perfect human beings. There's absolutely points where you're not rooting for certain characters in certain moments, but then the script will turn things right around and you get these characters and they justify their actions. And I feel like all three of our leading performers here are stellar. I know it's only April, and I know that Oscar season is miles away from right now at the time of recording, but I would not be surprised to see Challengers get some sort of recognition. Above all else, I feel like it's going to garner Zendaya a Best Actress nomination. Now, I feel like, yes, her best performance is definitely in Euphoria, but as it goes with film, this might be the best Zendaya has ever been. She is so commanding of your attention every time you see her in frame. And you know that she means business every single time you see her. And when her injury scene does happen, you can't help but feel sorry for her. I loved her performance. I've been a big fan of Mike Faist as well. So glad to see him doing so well in this movie. He was, his character and Josh O'Connor's character both, I feel like, are the heart of this movie. Their bond and their friendship is so touching. The friction that they feel leading up to the eventual finale and the ending of this movie, I feel like was all done perfectly. I feel like all three of our performers were rock solid and absolutely Oscar-worthy. Luca Guadagnino also, for his direction, I feel like very Oscar-worthy. His small but growing filmography so far has been nothing short of versatile. Specifically speaking, his two movies that star Timothée Chalamet, Call Me By Your Name, Bones and All, you cannot think of two movies that are more polar opposites than those two. And now here he is doing another very different sort of feature in a sports drama / romance / thriller. And I feel like that's what all the best movies of the year boiled down to. They can interweave together multiple different genres, and they can still form a cohesive, emotional, entertaining story. Like, that's not easy for any movie to do. And I feel like Challengers absolutely pulled that off. This movie absolutely floored me. The performances, the direction, everything surrounding the love triangle and the narrative. And usually, I'm not that big of a fan of non-linear narratives, but in this case, it absolutely works, and it was 100% necessary. I will say, if I were to nitpick anything about Challengers, I do have a couple of issues with it. Number one, it definitely feels like Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's score. Extremely repetitive in a lot of cases. Like, I do enjoy the music as it sits, and there's a couple of soundtrack choices thrown in there that I couldn't help but get a kick out of. They certainly felt like early to mid-2000s. But the main Challengers score itself is more techno-retro based, and it's fun music, but there's times where it definitely feels like it's very out of place, especially in some more serious, dramatic moments. And it honestly made me question the creative choice as to why they would have that music during that scene in the first place. And yes, even though I do completely understand the characters' motivations by the end of the movie, there were points where, in hindsight, some of the reasons why people would get back together after a relationship had previously ended, it seemed like based on what these characters were doing to one another and then how they reconciled, some things felt a little bit too easily forgiven. Now, there's nothing wrong with forgiving people for stuff that they did in the past. Like, in my personal life, not to get too deep, but I feel like I'm a very forgiving guy. But with how these characters are presented, forgiving is not what I would think of them. So it kind of felt odd to me in the moment that they would just forgive their friends so easily, after their friends had wronged them so much. But sometimes I really like movies like that, movies that really just make you think. And I really enjoyed Challengers. I think it's going to stand the test of time as one of the stronger efforts of the year cinematically. It gives you some phenomenal, intense direction from Luca Guadagnino and a career-best film performance from Zendaya. This is one you're probably not going to want to miss, guys. I'm going to give Challengers an A-. That is a definite stamp of approval, A-. Let me know what you guys thought of Challengers down in the comment section. What is your favorite sports drama movie that you've ever seen? I love discussing all new things in the cinematic world over here on The Regular. If you stumbled upon this channel for the first time today, welcome. Do consider becoming a subscriber today. Tap on that thumbs up as well if you haven't already. And stay tuned for more videos very soon as we kickstart a very jam-packed blockbuster season this summer. And I can't wait to share my thoughts and hear all your guys' thoughts on all the new things in the entertainment world. Y'all are the best. Thank you again for your support and for tuning in. And with all that being said, Back Talk, commence.